A range of viewpoints and perspectives, which is really great to end the panel sessions, I think. We have a global thought leader from WEF, Nita Sardana, and my husband founded Innova Solutions, which is an IT services company. And we are global. We have about 50,000 employees around the world. I, along with my children, found Innova Foundation. And when I think about legacy, and I think about my own mother,
that human beings have one purpose, and that purpose is to flourish in a flourishing community on a flourishing planet. And we seem to have forgotten that. The second thing that I want you to take back with you is that all of us are born with a special inner light, and our light will make sure that we can advance a flourishing future for this planet still.
So philanthropist, we invest in healthcare and longevity and wellness, specifically, of course, for me as the sponsor GP amongst 3 other men, so the only woman. But the sponsor GP, I made sure that women's healthcare solutions are part of our priority when we invest. So I'm really proud to say that we are able to now line up different women's healthcare and wellness and longevity solutions that are important to invest into. So I believe that capital is one of the top 3 driving forces if we really want to be able to activate all our purpose or passion. All these are nothing if we do not have capital to drive them. I'm a businesswoman, so that is where I play well, and that is where I channel my resources, my passion.
I come from like 3-4 cultures, so I'm an infusion. So if I was to describe what I do in terms of my work life, or what I don't say work life, my life, is a life of convergence. When I say convergence, I'm a woman of infusion that really is at the intersection of health, tech, policy, business, economics, and innovation as the horizontal. I worked with the World Economic Forum as a futurist. I'm part of a group, a board member, that is creating digital twins. I'm writing policies around digital well-being for children.
Panel to follow. This is the last panel of the day. And Stuti just mentioned what the name of the panel is, but I think we have to actually rename this panel. I think we are the why panel, right? We're talking about legacy. And the context of legacy for our panel is really about looking around the corner, I believe. This is about generational health and wealth in context of climate resilience and also sustainability. It's a huge topic. But I think today, during the course of the day, if some of you, I think, have come in a little bit later, we've heard the bright side of climate resilience and AI and all those sorts of things, and now we've heard kind of the deeper dark side. And one thing about the challenges that face us ahead that's kind of unique is that we see the problems pretty clearly. So I think on this panel, we're going to be talking about very clear-cut problems, in a sense. But the good side of this is when you can identify a problem, as every entrepreneur knows, you can create a solution. And that's the magic, right? So today we have a wonderful panel that has a range of viewpoints and perspectives, which is really great to end the panel sessions, I think. We have a global thought leader from WEF. We have a venture capitalist who also is a philanthropic investor in women and health and longevity. We have a NPO entrepreneur. And we also have a corporate foundation leader, and some of us also have a range of corporate as well as entrepreneurial and venture experience. So from these perspectives, we're going to talk about legacy. So if you don't mind, I'd like to start off with your own self-introductions, but what is the root of your legacy? What is your background that your legacy is going to be coming from and based on? Would you like to start, perhaps?
Sure. My name is Nita Sardana, and My husband founded the Innova Solutions, which is an IT services company. And we are global. We have about 50,000 employees around the world. I, along with my children, found Innova Foundation. And when I think about legacy, and I think about my own mother. You know, she was one. She's 94 years old right now. And when she finished 10th grade, her parents were like, "We want to get you married." And she's got 4 older brothers who all were in college, and my grandfather was the principal of the school. And she's like, "My brothers can go to college, why can't I?" So because he was in education, he was able to get books for her. And because in those days, you couldn't go to college. Women were not taken in colleges. So she studied at home. He would quiz her every night. It took her 10 years to complete college and get a degree. And her sister followed the path. But it's not just that. She was in a small town, and so many women were so inspired that they also went to college and did the same thing. So I think the legacy starts from there. My daughters, you know, who are so passionate about women empowerment. I think my son, he's here. He is a big supporter, a big advocate, very proud of him and proud of my daughters. And I've got 5 grandchildren. And I think building that legacy is very important. And it's important to know where you come from and what is the impact you want to make and how you want to leave the world a better place than where you found it.
Well, that sounds like a pretty strong lie to me. Karima? So, first and foremost, I want to remind all of us, and even when you go home and speak to other people, that human beings have one purpose. And that purpose is to flourish in a flourishing community on a flourishing planet. And we seem to have forgotten that. The second thing that I want you to take back with you is that all of us are born with a special inner light. And our light will make sure that we can advance a flourishing future for this planet still. So, for the first 20 odd years of my career, I thought I was doing a great job for people on the planet. I worked in the fair trade movement, helped it grow really fast. I worked in the world's largest corporations, Mondelez and Nike, and I helped fight deforestation and advance human rights with the voices of these corporations in industries totaling $10 trillion. And we thought we were doing amazing, right? Systems change, making big difference. And lo and behold, out comes the end of 2022, and I realized that we are walking into a 1.5 degree future. All of us think we're doing so much to alleviate poverty and inequality and solve for climate change, and yet we're still headed into a 1.5 degree world where we still have 2 billion people living in conflict zones and 800 million people in poverty, and we still have only protected 15% of nature when we need to protect 50% of nature. I'm an auntie, I'm Indian like you, and I have 1,000 nephews and nieces because our definition of family is wide and luminous. And I'm the auntie, I'm the impact auntie. And at the end of my life, I do not want to be the one who's known as the one who tried, but I want to be the one who's known as solving the problem. So my job at illumine.earth, which I founded, is to make sure that all leaders on the planet know that our purpose is to advance a flourishing future. And I work with leaders in Gen Y, Gen X, and all businesses and all sectors of industry to help them through my programs to align and to reclaim their leadership and to reimagine the future accordingly. And I also give back pro bono to Gen Z youth activists to actually support them and train them and mentor them. And so, yeah, let's fix this.
I think you just named a new movement, the Impact Aunties.
Janet?
Thank you.
really impressive to be learning and listening to your stories, ladies. Janet Salazar, I'm a VC and I'm also a philanthropist. We invest in healthcare and longevity and wellness, specifically, of course, for me as the sponsor GP amongst 3 other men, so the only woman. But the sponsor GP, I made sure that women's healthcare solutions are part of our priority when we invest. So I'm really proud to say that we are able to now line up different women's healthcare and wellness and longevity solutions that are important to invest into. So I believe that capital is one of the top 3 driving forces if we really want to be able to activate all our purpose or passion. All these are nothing if we do not have capital to drive them. I'm a businesswoman, so that is where I play well, and that is where I channel my resources, my passion. But at the same time, as chairman of the Foundation for the Support of the United Nations, we work closely with different member states of the United Nations, different UN entities, and nonprofit organizations and foundations to make sure that we help advancing the SDGs, specifically with the Partnership for the Goals, that's 17. Again, like I said, because that's where we are, we play very well in these kinds of different ecosystems and global spaces across the world. I believe that if you focus on something where you're really good at, and you're a good player, and you have this a wonderful ecosystem of support from all angles, I believe that you can be very, very effective. And so you couple that with capital and your resources, and I think that the impact that you can make will really matter so much, and we can put a dent into the challenges that we are trying to solve. In this case, of course, in the context of this conversation is legacy. So I just really want to come up with one answer to how I view legacy, to answer your question, Patricia, and that is simply, I think it's an answer to the question, how do we want to see the future for the next generation, for our kids, for our nieces and nephews as an auntie, etc. So that for me is legacy. It begets it comes down to the present, then how do we act now, right? So if our aspirational hope for this legacy that we want to leave for the future for our children is positive, I hope it's positive. I'm an eternal optimist. So I really see, the positive side of things, that I hope that we do the things that we need to do today so that the future and the legacy that we leave for our kids and our children is really something that is positive. Thank you so much.
Very strong roots for legacy. Thank you. And Dr. Maliha.
Absolutely. Bismillah. I first want to say, when I describe myself, it's, people ask me, where do you come from? I come from like 3-4 cultures, so I'm an infusion. So if I was to describe what I do in terms of my work life, or what I don't say work life, my life, is a life of convergence. When I say convergence, I'm a woman of infusion that really is at the intersection of health, tech, policy, business, economics, and innovation as the horizontal. I worked with the World Economic Forum as a futurist. I'm part of a group, a board member, that is creating digital twins. I'm writing policies around digital well-being for children. I'm part of the G20 presidency, part of a group called Values 20, where we created the child-friendly cities, which I will go into why they're important. And at the same time, when I talk about who I am, I believe health is a right, not a privilege, something we all are born into and we have to take care of. And life for me is a trust, and so is the earth. We're caretakers and we have a responsibility to take care of ourselves, to take care of our future, and to take care of this earth. And that is something that's sort of given to us as a gift from God. I'm spiritual, but at the same time, that spirituality is a life of service. So if I was to describe who I am, every day I wake up, my calling is, how can I serve today in one way or other? Be it policy, be it tech. We save one life, we save humanity. How can we improve one life, make it impactful in such a way that we can make that, ripple effect? And that's what I like doing. And I think that's really exciting for me. So for me to say a legacy where the children are our future, I've developed a policy called Cradle to Cradle. And Cradle to Cradle well-being is generational well-being. It's creating futures that are existent today, but are really for the children tomorrow. I'm not a mother yet. I say yet because I would like to be, but I am an impactful aunt. I have nieces and nephews that I really look up to because they actually inspire me. And recently, one of the policy tables I'm sitting at asked that children should be a part of the conversation, not just be talked about, but talked with. So they should be on the tables with us. So my concept is on cross-pollination. You bring everyone together. You bring the mothers, you bring the children, you bring the artists. I'm a poet, and that's how I introduce myself usually, but my tech people say to me, Maliha, you need to say more than that. But that artistic side brings the creativity of really giving back to this earth. So I think infusion for me is very important, is bringing everything together so we can take care of not just ourselves, but what is to come in this earth that we live in.
A beautiful concept, infusion. So I think everyone on this panel is very, very clear in terms of where they come from and their why. So I guess as very practical people, and being here at Climate Week, looking for solutions, I guess the first obvious question is to get the elephant in the room out of the way. So what's stopping us from embarking on the legacy? And I think just a few moments ago we heard about the plastics ban and discussions about how an entire industry doesn't have to prove that it's safe, in order to inundate our future generations. The obvious constraint that we all face is really policy, right? The rules and regulations that bind us. So maybe, Jen, if you can get us started off with what is the impact of policy and how much, what role does it play in either empowering us or preventing us from achieving our legacies? What do you think?
Thank you, Patricia. I think that based on my own experience in dealing with public-private entities and partners and collaborators in all this space, public policy really is, again, key to everything that we do. I mean, think about, again, I'm coming from the finance and capital space on this perspective. Think about, for example, how much money flows into the lobbying, right? Hundreds of millions of dollars are spent when companies or groups, lobby, for example, in Washington, D.C. for very self-interested, objectives that they want to push, right? So, and this, whether we like it or not, they really sway. They have a big sway, and I don't need to go into details about that because I'm sure a lot of you are aware of it. But that has a big sway in how policies are shaped. And I think, of course, it's such in the United States, but I think all over the world it happens a lot. Whether these are backdoor dealings or over coffee, over dinner, these kinds of influence, if you may, that happens behind the scene when huge public policies are at stake, and it needs certain votes, or it needs to be, a law or an executive order, right? They really play a big role, when we are faced with important solutions that, for example, the government needs to address, or certain big organizations. So, again, like I said, it's not the actual policy itself, right? To me, it's just a byproduct of everything that goes behind, behind the scene to come up with these policies or to decide on these policies. So for me, the driving force, or when certain policies take into effect, that entire process that happens behind the scene, case in point, the lobbying, right? Whether that's positive or negative, that's where the defining moment is, when it comes to, the defining moment happens when it comes to coming up with a policy. So that's, my take on it, where I'm coming from.
Yeah, so advocacy is a very, very important element of all of this. And I know that you have a strong interest in health and longevity. And I know that, Maliha, you also are a health expert. What do you think are in terms of advocacy or any other element, what do you think are the most urgent interventions that are needed?
Sure. Just, sometimes just the simple things that people overlook, and they are the most important ones to actually be looking into. So just understanding there are many, many populations, vulnerable populations that are affected by this current climate change. But let's focus on women and children, just in terms of especially looking at them with a very different lens. About 1 billion children are impacted across the world from this climate change. And we don't even think twice about it, but every day, 2,000 children die from this impact. How? From simple things like pneumonia and asthma, just from air pollution. So if you were to see, as someone who is a proactive prevention, digital twin, precision, personalized care expert, how frustrating that can be that something that's preventable is causing deaths to 2,000 children daily. Pregnant women are impacted by the heat, by this climate change so much that you have premature babies, underdeveloped babies born, and sometimes premature deaths. This is all really, you can tackle this very easily. These are all preventable situations that can be done immediately. This is not even, you go to, lobbying is one element. This is pre-lobbying, this is prevention. Public health is a moral, proactive approach now. It's not something you should be thinking about. It's something we need to be focusing on right now. And people need to understand that health is not just genetic, it's the environment. So the epigenetic impact of climate change is huge. So we're not, like we just saw, from all the videos and everything, we're carrying plastic. And there's so much we can do to immediately fix that.
Thank you. Maybe I can ask the same question to Karima.
I think you magically timed us, because I think there's mindset, and mindset. Mindset number one, this is about the planet, it's about something external. Climate change is the biggest threat humanity has ever faced. And it is about your own humanity, it's about your children, whether Nita will be able to have great-grandchildren with all the plastics in her grandchildren, whether we will be able to have a flourishing humanity in the future. And we need to make this emergency about humanity, not about some good river out there. Number two, we often think, when you look at the island of Manhattan, there's 100,000 of us moving around thinking everybody cares about this. And you go to the coffee shop and they have no idea what you're talking about, right? This is not just the impact or sustainability or policy person's job. This is everybody's job. And we need to figure out how to make sure that this is crossing silos, crossing boundaries, and making sure everybody's part of the solution. And the third piece is really around us thinking we still need to go in a linear fashion and an incremental fashion, because we've been conditioned to do this. We've been conditioned to be good students in school and good workers at work and not really be disruptive. Well, folks, it's time to be disruptive. It's time to shift the physics. It's time to figure out how to get that current version of your degree in a way that works. But we need to figure out how to do this in a really different way than we've been doing. So shift your mindset about this is about humanity. Shift your mindset, this is about everybody getting in. And third is, let's forget all of our limiting beliefs and figure this out.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very great overarching principle. But the problems are so huge. And when you think of it from a youth generation, I have 4 children as well, and recently my first grandson. And it really makes you stop and think how they view some of these really intractable problems. So maybe this is where, having a very, very clear plan and just sort of picking your poison and tackling that one. And so maybe, Nita, you're working for a foundation that has very, very clear sort of a mission and direction. What sort of practical approach from a legacy perspective are you pursuing through Innova Foundation?
So for us, collaboration. That's our key. We collaborate, we have lots of partnerships. We've got over 200 partnerships around the world. And I think that is one of the keys, because corporations, I feel, need to do that. they need to step up and they need to collaborate with other organizations that are actually doing the work. And give an inside view on what you think it needs to be done. And when I talk to all these organizations, it's so easy to give money away. You can just write a check and you can say, okay, I'm done. But you really have to go inside and dig deep. That what are they doing? What is their impact? Is there something else you can think about? Can you think out of the box? Can you say, well, maybe this is what we need to do. Maybe they're not thinking about that. So really go in and evaluate what the impact they're making, and is there something else that you can do, to do something differently. I mean, we do a lot around solar panels. We try to impact NGOs in India. The Earth Saviors Foundation, it has 1,200 senior citizens who are in the NGO, and these are senior citizens who are left out on the streets by their children, nowhere to go, and they don't have food, they don't have anything. So this NGO gives them everything, medical care, food, everything. And of course we also help with the food, but we're giving them solar energy now, putting in solar plants. So that's just one example, but we've done hospitals, food kitchens, So I think we have to think outside the box. It's not just our own company, but we have to think, how can we really serve those underprivileged that are being neglected? So that's my opinion on this.
Well, and that brings us right back around to the Sustainable Development Goals. I mean, the primary focus of the SDGs was primarily poverty alleviation, and all of the rest support that outcome, yes? So maybe just in terms of very practical terms, Maya, what is the practical impact of climate change on human health? I think that's your main areas.
Again, I'll go back to the basics, simplicity, and then scaling up. Simple things we know, let's just scale up what we know. Clean water, clean air, whatever we can do. Just in terms of stats, 2.5 billion homes still use biomass cooking inside, which causes poisoning to a lot of mothers and children. Just having clean cooking stoves and greener cities. I design healthier cities by design. So I'm a health expert, but I'm also I design cities that are in terms of well-being. And one of the things we do is we design hospitals with vertical farming on top, so everything is grown there, it's homegrown. So we're trying to bring in those sort of green health. The initiative is green health, is bring it everywhere you can, practically speaking. And one thing I've learned also is very interesting is if you become child-focused. So in the G20 presidency, the G20 group, that the chapters, the policy chapter we wrote, was on building child-friendly cities. Once you focus on children, it helps everyone in the process. It helps people with disabilities. It helps men and women. So it helps across all just the whole through everyone. So if you focus on child-friendly solutions, then you're focusing on everyone. You don't miss out any individual. And I think that's sort of the focus. If we start focusing like that, we are already winning. And another interesting aspect is talk to the children as well. I know that they are sometimes not on the table, but recently, on a very different side, I was working on the regulatory side as well as the health tech side, and we brought children on the table in terms of how much algorithmic dopamine loops are they allowed, how much of digital well-being is really good for children. And believe it or not, they said, we said there should be specific times, but there was one child, their story was that was the only way they became close to their mom. They had never hugged their mother, but only when she became a part of that digital game was he able to actually hug her, so they hugged in real life. So he said to understand the perspective and embed it all together. So start simple, scale up, and have the voices that represent everyone in there.
Thank you. That sounds like a wonderful beginning of our closing comment. And so maybe I could just go back down the line. And if we're talking about just legacy in terms of Nita's great grandchildren. What is the legacy in terms of longevity, Janet, that you would like to see? What is the end game for you in terms of your legacy?
I think that is directly related, longevity and legacy, right? I mean, for us to be able to, for example, leave a lasting, durable, enduring legacy, we gotta make sure that, we live healthy, longer lives. So what we do to achieve that, of course, now depends on all of us, right? So health habits, a healthy environment, these little basic things that you were talking about, and then mindset. So I think that's really, really important, because we can have everything around us on external, we can have all that support and that public policy and everything, resources, but if we do not have the right mindset and connect all these things together, I think there will be no legacy. And it doesn't matter we have longevity, if we don't have the right mindset, I think, again, that's what not happen. So the bottom line is mindset. Thank you.
Perfect. So, Karima, what do you need to achieve your legacy?
I think I need for all of us to reimagine the purpose of leadership. And I want us to all unite towards a purpose that is, towards the purpose of flourishing future. I want you all to remember one data point, and that is 50% of the world today is age 35 and under. And it's a generation of young people who knows and who has seen all of us lead them towards a future that is incredibly uncertain, that is climate risk, that is full of AI, which doesn't create a guaranteed flourishing future. And they do not trust us. They do not trust us. So what it takes is for us to, one, reimagine our purpose. It takes for us to unlearn our limiting beliefs. And it takes for us to actually learn from the unreasonable of the young people. The unreasonable young people have a lot to teach us about how we can live and lead and collaborate in a different way.
Thank you. And I'll give the last word to you, Nita.
Thank you. Legacy, I feel, is something that's built. It's through your actions. It's the impact that you're making on every single life. And for me, it's the thousands of people that I impact every day. And for me, just to have their blessings is the legacy that I have. And that is what I want to teach my children, my grandchildren, that they can go out and look into the world and see the difference they've made, the lives they've touched. Every single story matters. Every heartbeat matters. And that's what the legacy is.
Well, I think we've learned that there are a lot of different forms of generational wealth, and that the legacy can certainly be empowered by impact aunties and a little bit of venture capital and a lot of policy and advocacy. So thank you all very much for listening. Thank you. Thank you.